it's Magali's birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday, Magali. Oh,
Happy birthday, Magali.
We're live.
Hey, and we're live. Sweet. So,
First, we gotta say happy birthday to
Hey,
Magali.
happy birthday to Magali.
Happy birthday to you, Magali.
yay. So, hey, welcome to Grown Ass Kids Show. So, we are a bunch of guys from Huntsville, Alabama. We get together and talk comic books and TV and movies, maybe little games, just whatever we end up talking about. We're on Facebook at Grown Ass Kids Show if you want to join us there. Hopefully you're watching live on Twitch now, or maybe you're watching a later post on Facebook. So feel free to join that and keep up on when we're going to be posting. I am Lucas. It's nice to meet you. So let's go. Next to me is
Doug.
Yep, we got Doug, and then
I'm Mark.
and to my right,
I'm Derek.
and then Rashad is
Left the building.
he's behind the computer doing the recording, and then Travis is not here this week, but he is Skyping in with us. So he is kind of down in the corner this week.
Hi, everybody.
And then, so yeah, that's all of us. And Chris Lawson couldn't be with us this week, so we miss you, Chris. Yeah.
Feel better, Chris.
Feel better. All right, so to start off this week, so one thing that we do each week, between episodes, is we have book club. So book club, we choose like either a standalone graphic novel or like the first volume of a series to read. And so this week, Travis's pick was Sara by Garth Ennis. And so what did everybody think about Sara? Doug, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. First of all, so it's written by Garth Ennis, and he is famous for doing war stories and inappropriate superhero stories. And so his most famous work has always been Punisher, which is a combination of both. But this particular story, Sara, was done by TKO Studios, which Travis is a huge fan of, and I think I'm becoming one as well. Mm-hmm. It's drawn by Steve Epting, who did the good Captain America run, the Winter Soldier story with Captain America. And I gotta say that overall, I loved this thing, even though it brought me to tears at the end. Which, if you're not crying at the end of in this war story, you didn't read it. So I love how they incorporated a important motif in the story into the very cover, because there's a little bit of a they're looking for. So, but her humility in the face of adversity in Soviet Russia is amazing. If you know anybody that has been in the service before, there's a lot of stuff that Garth Ennis puts in his war stories that is just salt and peppers. His narrative is completely salt and peppered with the war experience, and he does stuff in, like, at the very beginning, Sara has something to say about the rifle that she uses, and she calls it a gun. And if you know anybody that's been in the service or know anybody that's ever trained with a weapon before, you will never ever call a rifle a gun. But here she is within first 4 pages calling this rifle a gun, and you don't get to figure out why she does that until the last 12 pages of the book. So that's how deep and that's how important it all is. That's that one little tidbit. That's this is like 100 and thank you, sweetheart. 120 pages, and that is just 12 pages of insightful stuff that he puts into this one particular war story. So I did enjoy it. It did upset me greatly at the very end. But like I said before, it's a Garth Ennis war story, so if you're not balling at the end, then you didn't read it. So.
Yeah. Travis, do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. out of all the TKO stories that I've completed 3 of them now, and I'm working on the 4th one. I got to say, this is probably the best one that they've had so far. I think I like some of the themes that they have in this book. The only thing that bugged me a little bit was early on, I felt like the Nazis were shooting, and it's like, okay, are the Nazis just like stormtroopers in this book? They can't hit anything. And then, later on, they get a little bit better, I guess, at shooting people. But it was just, it plays on that theme of, there's something going on that you don't really know about with this main character, that you think that, it's just, she's just angry and she hates the world and she wants to do this, but then you find out there's more to the story as you go through it, and the ending to me was probably one of the best endings. The little things that she does throughout the book all kind of tie back together in the end pretty well. But for me, I would say, I mean, this is probably one of those books I'm going to go back and reread whenever I get it back from Doug, who still has it. I'm going to get it back, Doug. But I mean, I really enjoyed it. Like Doug was saying, Garth Ennis has this, different styles depending on what he's writing, and I've never read one of his war stories before, which I've heard about. I just never did. So it was kind of a complete 180 from what I was expecting when I saw that it was this, female protagonist. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be about sex and all sorts of weird stuff that happens in the army, and it was completely not what I was expecting. I mean, they even at one point hint that might happen, and then they were like, no, it's not going to happen. And I was like, thank God, because I think it would have really taken a lot away from the story if that's what it ended up being. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything else? No. So yeah, I'll just say I really did enjoy it. I like that. I like that in such a short amount of time we got so much character development.
Yeah.
And you get character development through not through exposition, but how each character reacts to things that are going on around them. And I seriously, I told this to Derek earlier. I would love to see more from this story. Maybe a short miniseries, another miniseries, maybe of maybe some time before. They have flashbacks to kind of when Sara was younger and kind of learning, her first years. But I would love to see more, because I kind of you kind of get a taste of all these characters. So the art is so, this is one thing that kind of struck me. I thought about this afterwards. It's the art is so good that I really didn't think about the art as I was reading the story. It was kind of unintrusive because it's so realistic looking. And so as I'm reading it, it was like I'm reading and watching a movie essentially. So I really enjoyed that about the art. Like you said, I don't want to spoil the end, but yeah, it was it was very sad, and like I said, it was very telling, even with all the different characters, how that even in that how all that played out. So I really did. I'm going to kind of look up more of Ennis's war stuff, because I really enjoyed this. So
There's a Jack London story that this reminded me of, and that ends. I think that Jack London story takes place during I think the frontier times, or it's either that or the Civil War, and it takes there is something that Ennis does with that idea of that Jack London story, where and I'm not giving away anything, but if you know anything about Jack London and you know anything about his war stories, you probably know what I'm referring to. But I'll say this though, Ennis puts an Ennis spin on that motif, and he does something that I think would actually happen in real life. And if you know anything about Soviet snipers, as far as the history and all that goes, I don't want to say that because it's going to spoil the ending. But let's just say that the Soviets now treat their snipers very well after the war. So if you were a sniper and you lived in Soviet Russia, you did not end your days very kindly at all.
Yeah.
So
There we have it.
So there we go. So that's Sara. Feel free if you read along with us to post on Facebook. Tell us your thoughts. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. No, I realized I was saying stuff and I was muted because I hit the mute button. Now I was going to say that they actually play a lot on that about how the Soviets treated the military just in general. There's a point in the book where they talk about somebody, what would you have done, or should they tell on somebody that showed some cowardice out on the battlefield, and they were like, it's going to completely ruin their life if you do that. Like they're going to be, they might not even survive if you went and told somebody. So I mean, it plays into a lot of how that mentality of Soviet soldiers just in general were not treated very well.
a mini short story inside there about why it just sucked to be in the Soviet army, in like the fact that they love their country so much, they still put up with these clowns. So not only were they putting up with the enemy at the gates, as far as like the Germans, they were putting up with their own bureaucracy, and they were really fighting for the quality of life. And he really nailed it. I thought Ennis did a really good job.
Yeah. Well, and I like how talking about how everyone was treated. I like how you see these different, for lack of a better word, layers of Sara kind of get peeled away. Because you kind of see you see her at the beginning, and they describe her as kind of cold and aloof, and you kind of wonder, well, why is that? Well, then you kind of see this one thing, and you're like, oh, well, that's why she's like that. And then you're kind of like, well, maybe it's because of how she's being treated in the military, because it is the Russian military. And then you find out another little piece of it, and you're like, oh wow, like that's even more, like it all comes together in the end. It's like it's not any one thing that she is the way that she is, but everything makes sense once everything is kind of revealed.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. So let us know your thoughts, and so for next time, so we're going to take a suggestion from Chris. So we're going to do Outer Darkness Volume 1 by John Layman. The description is Star Trek Discovery meets demonic horror with a twist of humor.
Okay.
So looking forward to a good sci-fi. So feel free to pick it up and read along with us. We'll be talking about that at the beginning of our next show.